to this week's edition of the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Mellissa T, the Procrastination Bully. As you can see, things look a little bit different around here. My background is still the same, but the way I'm coming to you is a bit different. Today is our first live stream, so I am super, super, super excited for this. And prayerfully, y'all are excited about this too. You know what I mean? um, some may have had questions for me, and you may have wanted to talk to me in this sort of real time kind of process. So if you are one of those folks, by all means, type your questions in the chat. Shout out to MJ. He was here for my sound check. Shout out to you, bro. Thanks for coming back. Much love to you. MJ is somebody that has been following the show since day one. Like he's known me since before the show was created. So shout out to MJ. Thank you so much for tuning in. And by all means, man, like if you have any questions as it relates to procrastination, I'm glad to answer them, MJ. And just very quickly, I do want to shout out some of my other regular and very faithful viewers. Shout out to the Thomases, Rosalie and Lamosley. These guys not only watch every time, but they always go out of their way to comment. So I appreciate you. MJ is another one. Like MJ be dropping comments, multiple comments. So thank all of you, for taking the time to not only watch, but also comment. And by all means, like and share the video. That, of course, feeds the algorithm so I can reach other people that are struggling with procrastination so they can get the help they need as well. Shout out also goes to Sam Gibson, who is in the chat right now. Shout out to you, bro. Like you were a part of this from the beginning as well. Like for those who, if you're watching, you've ever heard me say I turn procrastinators into producers. Sam Gibson is the guy. He was the one that gave me the language for that. So shout out to you, Sam. He's another faithful viewer. So hey, Danae, I see you. Shout out to Danae. She's one of my newest sisters in the Mastermind family. We love you, girl. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show this evening. Appreciate you. So yeah, if you guys saw my post on social media yesterday, the significance of this show is to not only celebrate my transition into season 3. My goodness, like where's the time going? I first launched this show on October 1st, 2023, and like we're we're in July right now, July 10th. So next week is episode 1 of season 3. I am super excited, and thank you guys for rocking out with me as we exit season 2 with a bang and with our first live. Shout out to you, Rosalie. Thank you. Good to see you live and direct. Yes, indeed. Yeah, Sam, for real. Congrats. And congrats to you, man. Like you've been doing your thing too. Like I'll be prowling. Like I see what you're doing on social media as well. So shout out to you and the work that you're doing to make this world to leave this world better than you found it. I am so blessed to know and be around people that are focused on that, people that are focused on leaving the world better than they found it. And everybody that's in the chat right now, you guys are a part of that. So thank you guys so much for being amazing people and for inspiring me to continue to do the work that I do for others. For those who may be watching, you may not be commenting yet, but this might be your very first exposure to me. This might be your first time seeing me. I am Mellissa T, the Procrastination Bully, the T meaning Thomas. But yeah, my goal is to bully procrastination out of your life so you can become a producer and get the win, whatever that looks like for you. It can be a book, it could be a new job, it can be the completion of the project that has been waiting in your wings for like 10 years now, maybe 5 years, maybe 3 months. Whatever the case may be, that is my job. My name, Mellissa, means honeybee. My entire purpose on this planet is to help other people blossom because that's what bees do. Without bees, flowers don't grow, they die. You know what I mean? Without the sharing of information, we as human beings stop growing. And in the words of Les Brown, if you're not creating, you're disintegrating. So my job is to keep the human race alive for as long as I'm here with the cross-pollination of ideas that will push us to always grow. And if you're stuck in something, if you're procrastinating, then you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're going backwards. We don't want that. As ET recently said, that word backwards is now cuss word. So I got to say reverse. Those who may not know who ET is, that's ET the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas. I am one of his kids. So not literally biologically, but I am one of his proteges. I'm one of the members of his UOU mastermind. I've had the privilege of being in that mastermind for a year. And man, the level of growth is out of this world. So if you're somebody that's watching and you're wondering whether or not you should take that plunge, I'm telling you, take it. Take it. It's worth it. Shout out to everybody putting the honeybees in the chat. I love the emojis. Absolutely. And yes, MJ, thank you for the differentiation. I am Mellissa with 2 L's. That's me. Appreciate you. So very briefly, and please, like as you guys are coming up with your questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them and answer them. But as I promised in my social media post yesterday, I do want to share some key lessons from my recent health journey, specifically 5. Because y'all know if y'all are coming to the Getting the Win show, you got to come ready to take notes. So I am prepared to teach today. Not only celebrating, but still teaching. This is the thing that God put on my heart. It's the thing I love to do. I love sharing knowledge with folks. So just to level the playing field for everyone that is in my orbit, the folks that are closest to me know this journey from start to finish. Folks in the mastermind have gotten bits and pieces of it as I've shared it in relevant conversations. But here we're gonna I'm gonna go over it in relevant enough detail so it's one continuous string of a story, and then give you the lessons from it. So I'm gonna start this from 2017. Technically, the saga goes back further than that if we're talking build up, but I'm going to start in 2017 because every good story starts in the middle of the action. In 2017, December 26th, y'all, I end up in the ER with extreme pain. And as it turns out, it was because something was wrong in my lower abdomen. I had a ruptured cyst. That is where the health part of this tale begins. Okay. So I get back in touch with my medical folks at the VA. I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. So I have the benefit of going to the VA hospital. This is in Florida. So I went to the VA facility in Lake Nona, and I was informed that I was diagnosed with fibroids. Now, fibroids is something that is connected to 3 key things: poor diet, chronic stress, and a vitamin D deficiency. Those 3 things. In 2017, or technically 2018 by this point, by the time I saw my doc in the VA, I asked them, you know what? I don't want to do surgery right now. Can I try a more natural alternative? They gave me leave to try the natural alternative, with the warning that, they are the size that they are right now. They could potentially grow bigger. So just know, you don't want the surgery right now, but you likely will end up having to get it. You know what I mean? At the time, I was sincere. I really did mean to pursue that natural alternative. This brings me to the first 2 lessons of the 5 in procrastination in this season. 1, do what you say. Y'all, I did not get any healthier. Okay? I did not. I wanted to. That was the intent, but I didn't do it. I was still in the throes of my previous job. I worked in news media and constantly go, go, go. Moving very fast. Fast food was more convenient. So I was exposing myself to fast food and processed food almost every single day. Okay. I think my one break was Sunday, because anywhere that I lived, whether Florida or Georgia, Sunday was a day when dinner was cooked. Okay. So I ate healthy on Sundays. So number one, thank you, Sam. Do what you say. Whatever you're telling other people you're gonna do, make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. And number two, that second lesson that was packed in there is do it now. In all caps with the exclamation points, maybe several exclamation points. Do it now. Because what's interesting is because I was still in a job and I was still dealing with chronic stress, several other health factors hit me. In 2019, I developed adult onset asthma, okay, and a nut allergy. Like all of these things were directly connected to poor diet and chronic stress, and to a certain degree, that vitamin D deficiency. Because whenever I wasn't busy, I crashed, y'all. I crashed. Yes, Sam, appreciate you. Do it now. All caps, exclamation point. Yes. So, number one, do what you say. Number two, do it now. Number three, here's point number three. And this one, Sam, I'll shorten it for you, Sam, so you can jot it in the chat. Change any habits that are making you procrastinate. And if you can't do it on your own, get accountability. So you can even shorten it, Sam, to get accountability if you're putting the notes in the chat. If you notice in yourself any habits that are causing you to procrastinate, stop them. Or if you find that you can't, get accountability ASAP. Get accountability as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Because once you know that you can't get it done on your own, you're going to need the help. Many hands make work light. And those other hands will be able to pull you along to get you where you need to go. Correct, Rosalie. Delay can be deadly. Delay can be deadly, but God is God. That is so true. So, quick recap. One, do what you say. Two, do it now. Three, get accountability. Get accountability. Number four, your energy level equals your intensity level. Your energy level equals your intensity level. I say this because I'm speaking from both sides of the health journey now. The way I used to feel pre-surgery, spoiler alert, I did end up getting the surgery in July, or in June, excuse me, June 20th this year was a surgery. But on both sides of it, how you feel determines how you move. So your energy level equals your intensity level. Okay. So I'm a park on this point number four, for a while, because I want to continue to pull out the thread so you get more of the story. So obviously y'all saw where I left off. I made a recommendation. I'm gonna try this natural method so I can shrink these things naturally, right? Did not do that. The reverse happened. They blew up, like they got much bigger and more of them grew. So I ended up back in the emergency room in the month of June. This time for something going on my left side. Remember how I said on December 26th of 2017, a cyst ruptured? Because I delayed on improving my health, I ended up back in the emergency room 7 years later for another troublesome cyst because I didn't solve the problem earlier. This time, the cyst on my left side was putting pressure on my ureter, which is the thing that connects your kidney to your bladder. Let me tell y'all something. Anytime you hear somebody talking about health, don't judge them. Health is the most important thing that you have. When I say health, I'm talking about like diet. So for now, you're hearing a lot of people talk about keto. You hear people talking about paleo, sometimes Whole30. You hear folks, chanting real loud about the veganism and all of that. Whichever one you choose to use or whichever one resonates with you, experiment with it. You know what I mean? But anything is better than what I was doing. Processed food, fast food, chronic stress and irregular sleep. There's that too. Your energy level equals your intensity level. Because I was leading that lifestyle, I was feeling cruddy every single day. I functioned as necessary. I functioned as necessary, but it was the bare minimum, y'all. And for most of you in this audience, you guys are familiar with me, the version of me that's been in the mastermind. So you guys have seen the A1 version of Mellissa. So you guys may not be familiar with pre-surgery or like pre-mastermind Mellissa, with the exception of Rosalie and Lamazli Thomas. They know me. Since before I was born, they knew me. They're second only to God. um, but the way that I felt when I was working in that state, I literally felt like I was dragging my being into whatever I needed to do. I could be interviewing the governor during a press conference. Like I'm one of those people that would be in the press gaggle yelling out questions to him. You know what I mean? Like that was my job. There are times because of the poor health that my mind wasn't sharp. There were times when I would forget the question I needed to ask. And in a press gaggle like that, it's usually a fight for space. There are dozens of people talking and trying to fit their question in. Your mind has to be sharp in that line of work. And don't get me wrong, I am covered by the grace and blood of Jesus. Like he gave me the favor I needed to do the job. But because I was not in optimal health, I did not get optimal results. And that's important. Yeah, MJ. And that's the thing. Like, I'm real good at doing that. I hit it well. And that's the thing. Like there were folks on the job that worked with me that had no clue that I had any health challenges, save for the CEO himself, because he and I worked very closely together. So he was familiar with it. But the majority of the folks that I was around, they had no idea. So for any of you that have seen the episode that I did with whole food plant-based health coach Lisa A. Smith, she talks about this. Like we were talking about giving God thanks that we have a body that is so complex and regenerative that the body can keep you in your status of disease longer than you should be, only because its job is to keep you alive for as long as possible. But our responsibility as stewards of this body is to keep it in optimal health. And so to that point of invoking Lisa's name, I called her, I scheduled an appointment with her February 29th of 2024. And I said, you know what? Like it looks like this surgery is going to happen, because at this point, my iron levels were so low that my main doc called it dangerously low. She said they were dangerously low. And that was with iron supplements. So I said, okay, like I am literally against the wall now. I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to do this. Healthy lifestyle or no healthy lifestyle, this surgery is going to have to happen. But on February 29th, I got on the phone with Lisa and she told me exactly what I needed to do. Like she gave me the prescription for how to alter my diet, and I followed it to the letter. If you follow Lisa Smith, you've likely seen she just wrapped up her 30-day whole food plant-based SOS challenge. So SOS is SOS free challenge, which is salt, oil, and sugar free. So that was her prescription for me. Like whole food plant-based, no processed food, no processed sugar, no refined sugar, nothing. The only sugar you're getting is through the fruits and the vegetables. That's it. Whole food, plant-based, no meat, no salt, no oil, no sugar, no processed stuff. Now, the beauty of having a relationship with God is he will be loud and clear when it's time for you to hear something. And when I made that call with Lisa, the Holy Spirit made clear to me, this is going to be your lifestyle for the rest of your life. Embrace this. So that made the decision very easy for me. So I've obeyed Lisa's prescription to the letter. And because of that, yeah, shout out to you, Rosalie and Lamosley. These guys made it so much easier for me to do that because the three of us followed that model, and all of our health has improved. But like I followed Lisa's prescription to the letter, and because of that, y'all, by the time I had the surgery on June 20th, first of all, the surgery had complications. Okay. The surgery was supposed to be 2 hours, it lasted 5. I was supposed to be in the hospital overnight. I was there for 5 days. But the reason I mention Lisa in this is because I had that 3.5 month runway before the surgery. That runway helped my recovery exponentially. Since there were complications in the surgery, I could have been in the hospital for much longer than 5 days. And by the time I left the hospital, I was already walking on my feet. I was already walking straight up. Like the nurses on the floor were amazed because I was already like doing 11 laps on the hospital floor. Because of course, when you have a surgery like that, that's what the surgeons want to hear you're doing. Like they want you up and walking before they release you. They want to make sure that you can function. But yeah, like I was up and walking unassisted. Like they had given me a walker. By the end of the 5 days, I was up and walking unassisted. I was back to eating whole food by like the third of the 5 days because of this runway. All of this to go back to point number 2, which is do it now. This could have been me in 2018. But this is me in 2024. So I'm sharing this with you guys as a cautionary tale for whatever that is, whatever your luxury item is, whatever that looks like for you. Don't be me. You know what I mean? Like, don't build in a 6-year gap for something you could have done now or for something you could have done this year. Don't let that be you. And as I mentioned in my workshops and a couple of my episodes, it takes as long as it takes. Whatever your luxury item is, whatever that looks like, a much needed conversation with somebody, whether that's somebody you love or with a coworker, that side hustle that you may be thinking about doing, but you may have your doubts about whether or not it's market viable. There are plenty of ways to research that, and y'all mad intelligent. Like, I don't hang out with no slouches. So research is the thing you're waiting to do. It takes as long as it takes. Like dive into that research. And if you have any questions, you have a nerd at your disposal. So by all means, use me as your resource. Like feel free to ask me your questions as long as it'll get you out of being still and back into movement. You know what I mean? So number 5 now, and this one is going to take a bit. Like we're going to unpack number 5 for a minute because this is something else that has been very helpful to me and I want to share with you. Find the root of your delay. Find the root of your delay. If you need help with that, I have 2 different episodes on the show. One in season 1 where I talked about the 5 different procrastination styles. So you can nail down which one or ones, because sometimes we got some layers, right? Which ones apply to you. And then in season 2, in a very recent episode, I went over the different fears that cause procrastination. So just as an example, I talked about fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of boredom, and fear of facing difficult things, fear of reality as well, fear of reality. Find the roots of your delay. Thank you so much, Sam. Dig deeper. And by the way, yes, Rosalie, I see that side note along with some coconut water. She's referring to my healing journey. That was like the cheat code in there. Back when I was only on a liquid only diet in the hospital, like they used to bring me some coconut water and that was like game changer. So shout out to the Thomases. Y'all are dope. Y'all are dope. But yeah, find the root of your delay. So I mentioned all of this because this is a journey that God has had me on. And nearly all of the fears that I explained to you are connected to one tree. They're connected to a very powerful root, and it's the root of rejection. That's what the Holy Spirit made clear to me. He said, Mellissa, you're dealing with all of these things, but let me bring you to the heart of it. All of it stems from a root of rejection. And so this is an exercise, what I'm about to share with you. This is an exercise you can use whenever you want to. It's not necessarily immediately prescriptive. If it applies to you, by all means, use it. But I just want to share it with you so that you can apply it, put it in your back pocket and apply it when it's time for you to use it. So, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of boredom, fear of reality, fear of judgment. The only one that's not connected to the root of rejection is fear of boredom. But all of the rest of the fears that feed into procrastination, they're connected to that root of rejection. Procrastination itself is a part of that tree. So is overachieving. That's a part of that tree. And I can tell y'all, especially growing up, that was my biggest thing. I was an overachiever. I wore that as a badge of honor. I was that kid in class that made all A's and got on your last nerve because my hand was always up because I always knew the answer to the questions. I was that kid. I was that kid. Yes, yes, Danae. Huge, huge. It's important to get that differentiation, knowing what the symptoms are versus knowing what the root cause is. So here's the exercise that the Holy Spirit gave me to do. He had me write a letter to 7-year-old Mellissa because starting from about 7 is when I started dealing with rejection. That was how old I was when I first started facing rejection and began to internalize it. So the Holy Spirit had me write a letter to her. And because I'm a natural ATC, y'all, my letter was 6 pages long in my journal. I'm that detailed. But number two, my letter had a whole intro with bullets on what little 7-year-old Mellissa can expect from the letter. Like, and I'm glad I did that because I get to present that to you now. So you have a layout. Because I'm not going to read you the letter. That might bore you. But here's the layout that I gave 7-year-old me. And whichever version of you need to write this letter to, here's what you can use as that layout. So I said, first, I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm going to fully acknowledge you as you are. I'm going to fully see you as you are. Number two, I'm going to acknowledge the pain that you've endured. And number three, acknowledge my part in it. And then 4, I'm going to make a vow to you, my responsibility for you going forward. So a quick recap. Acknowledge that version of you, like see that version of you in all of his or her brilliance. Fully acknowledge that version of you. Brilliance, flaws, all of it. Number 2, acknowledge specifically all of the traumas and pain that's connected to that previous version of you. Number 3, acknowledge your part in causing any of those traumas or pain. And then 4, make a commitment to that version of you going forward. Make a commitment to yourself going forward. So for me, that looked like fully acknowledging 7-year-old Mellissa as the innocent, bright, and beautiful being that she is. And as I wrote in the journal, she is the loving and love magnetic version of myself. So I fully acknowledged her. I fully saw her for who she was. And that was important because one of the other things that's connected to that root of rejection is the need for external validation. We want to be praised. We want to get as much props as possible for the stuff we do, hence the overachieving. So I had to give her what she was starved for. So I made sure to acknowledge her, made sure to acknowledge her, made sure to let her know that I see her for who she is, or technically was, because she a kid, right? And then number two, I acknowledged in detail, this is why the letter was so long, but I acknowledged all of the traumas in my life, all of them that were connected to the root of rejection. And here's the beauty of doing this exercise, should you choose to do it. You will get divine downloads as you're writing it. The Lord gave me a powerful download while I was writing a letter as it relates to like kids. I was somebody for the longest time, y'all, from 11 years old. I don't know how we got on this conversation. My parents, somehow we were talking about this. Somehow, some way, the question came around to whether or not I wanted kids. I said no. Firm, 10 toes down, no. Didn't want them. And what's interesting is, as I was writing this letter, that's 11. I was 11 years old. So you're talking 1994. In 2024, 30 years later, the Holy Spirit gave me the clarification as to why my answer was no back then. He said, the reason you didn't want kids, Mellissa, is because up to that point in your life, every single instance of rejection that you faced came from other kids. So you made that connection in your mind. This is why it's important to take inventory of your feelings and become emotionally intelligent and become self-aware. So if you've been following the show, you know that the entire month of May and the entire month of June, you guys have seen me talking to a lot of different coaches and people that are big on emotional intelligence, or people who are in the recovery space, or people who have had experience in behavior modification. It is so important to do the inner work. And ET actually had a sermon on that back in 2023. Like it was toward the end of 2023. It's super deep because he's had to do it. And for those who, you may have missed the episode, but I'll reiterate it here just so everybody can hear it. The statistics say that only 1% of the world, the entire world, has done their soul work. 1% out of 8 billion people. That's only 80 million. We need to increase that number. We need to increase that number. But the beauty of knowing that, and the beauty of becoming emotionally intelligent, is that I was able to, with sincerity and conviction, get to part 4 of my letter, where I could seriously commit to 7-year-old Mellissa to protect her from future rejection or future feelings of rejection. And I told her in my apology in part 3, the part where I caused her pain, it was because I wasn't emotionally intelligent. I internalized everything. If this is you, put a 1 in the chat. If that's something you struggle with, like you're more of a feelings person, you're more emotive. Hey, put a 1 in the chat. Like sometimes that's a thing. Like we're those of us who are more emotionally driven, we're people, but we're also task people. Those of us who are ground screw, like we have that. Like we tend to internalize things because we're very loyal, and we don't like separations either because we're very loyal. So by the way, annotate that as a branch on the tree of rejection. If you struggle with separations or breakups, that's rejection. Okay, that's rejection. That's a fear. That's a fear of separation. So just wanted to share that with you. That's number 5. Find the root of your delay. Find the root of your delay. Shout out to Sam for putting the 4 parts of the letter in the chat as well. Thank you so much, bro. Appreciate you. But yeah, acknowledge that version of you, acknowledge the trauma and pain, acknowledge your role in it, make a vow to yourself going forward. And I can promise you guys, after I finished writing the letter and making that vow going forward, I read the letter out loud, and here's why. Joyce Meyer gives a specific number. I can't remember what the statistic is, but she said, you're far more likely to believe what you say about yourself than you are to believe what other people say about you, because it's your subconscious mind hearing your words say the things you're saying. That's what it is. That's the science behind it. That is why speaking the word out loud is so important. And any coach that you follow, ET, any of them, they all do the same thing. Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, any of them, they will give you exercises where you're saying stuff out loud, because you're much more likely to gravitate to it, because your brain is hearing you say it from your outer ear. That's what the difference is. When it's thoughts, you're hearing your thoughts with your inner ear. You take that for granted. Remember, we think 80,000 thoughts a day, right? You know what I mean? Your mind will kind of take that for granted. But when it's coming from your outer ear and it's your own voice, that is much more powerful. The other layer to this, if you choose to do this exercise, I didn't do it, but this is another layer that can help you. Read that letter in front of a mirror. Because now, not only are you activating your sense of hearing, now your eyes are seeing you say those powerful words to yourself. And then it really your body fully internalizes what you're saying. And I learned this in 2024. The body needs words to heal from any trauma or any negative emotion or unwanted emotion, I'll say. The body needs words to heal. And the beautiful thing about it is that the mind is so powerful, you don't even need to be saying it to anybody else. The body just needs to hear you say the words, and you can begin to heal. So I read that letter out loud, and I can promise y'all, no cap, I don't have a way to prove this because this was subconscious. But when I read the letter and read the vow at the end that I would protect 7-year-old Mellissa and that I am officially her safe space, I literally sensed something in the back of my mind say thank you. Because little Mellissa hadn't been heard in 3 decades. I had put her in a corner. I had silenced her. And I silenced her with disciplinarian language because I thought that's what was going to work, since it worked on like exterior me. You know what I mean? Like, my folks don't play. I grew up in a disciplinary household, so there's that. But I also served in the Navy. And in the Navy, there is no space, in the military period, there is no space for any kind of faltering, any kind of emotionality, none of that. Like, suck it up and keep it pushing. That was the language. So that's what I taught myself. And little 7-year-old Mellissa, she's a kid. So her only definition of sucking it up is shutting up. She was no longer expressive. So now that I made that vow to her, it is much easier now with the emotional intelligence and situational awareness and awareness of others. Shout out to Mustafa Ghonim. That's what he teaches us as emotional intelligence, or being self-aware. It's the 3 components of self-awareness. Emotional intelligence, like your emotional intelligence, emotional awareness of yourself, emotional awareness of others, being aware of others, and situational awareness, being aware of what's going on around you. So because I am now in this state, I was able to confidently make the vow that I could protect 7-year-old Mellissa, because now I know how to deflect anything that looks like rejection. Anything. Remember, we now have that statistic that only 1% of the world does their soul work. So when most of us are dealing with folk that are funky, We have nothing to do with any of their behavior. They're usually just funky. You know what I mean? Like they're going through whatever it is they're going through. They don't necessarily know how they're impacting you, and you're responsible for how you respond to other people's behavior. You can't control how they interact with you unless they're close enough to you that you can set boundaries. But ultimately, you're the one that's in control of how you respond. And once you know that people are behaving the way they behave because they just ignorant, like they don't necessarily know that they're coming across as rude. They may not intend to, they don't know that they are. Once you know that's unintentional, it's a lot easier to simply breathe it off and, like, you know what I'm saying? Do the Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? Get that dirt off your shoulders. Like, it's a lot easier to do that. So that was a long number 5. I'm gonna recap my 5 lessons one more time from my health journey. Do what you say, do it now, get accountability, and your energy level equals your intensity level, and find the root of your delay. So, because I'm more well versed in the root of my delay, my immediate thing, my immediate next step is getting accountability. So, y'all, I'm part of, like, I have like 3 or 4 different accountability calls that I'm a part of. And I mean, that includes my goal getter group. By the way, if you're interested in joining our community, our goal getters community, just shoot me an email at info@melissathomas.co. info@melissathomas.co. And I'm gonna put it in the chat so you guys can see it. But then just when you do that email, just write the word Telegram in the subject line, and I will add you to the community. But yeah, there's my goal getters community. They hold me accountable for stuff that I share in there. There's that. There's the UOU mastermind. We have accountability calls 5 days a week. And then there are 2 coaching clients that, for me, I count them as double-sided. Not only am I coaching them, but of course, as the coach, you're expected to keep your word. So I get to keep my word with both my clients, regardless of what we're discussing. So yeah, like now that I know the root of my delay, I got accountability to make sure I stay on top of what I need to do. And just so you guys are aware, this is a sign of that accountability. One of the things I learned from one of my coaches, he said, if you're building your audience, start going live. They'll appreciate it. I said, bet. That was this week, y'all. That was this week. So to that point about do it now, I wasted no time. I knew Wednesday was coming. I was like, yep, this is the move. This is what we're doing. So hopefully all of those lessons helped you. I packed a lot in there. That is, I made sure to number everything. And shout out to all the amazing and studious folks in the chat who kept notes as I was talking. So shout out to you guys. Appreciate it. 0 procrastination. Well done. Thank you, MJ. And as promised, let me go back up because you did put a question in the chat, MJ. You said, what can procrastinators and luxury items expect out of season 3? So appreciate you for that question. And the answer to that is, that answer I want to open up to you, the faithful viewers, like you that are on this live stream right now. Like, you guys are the folks that faithfully watch the show. So I wanted to actually open that question up to you. Have you been enjoying the recorded format so far with the interviews? Or would you like more of the singular episodes where I'm teaching? Or do you prefer this, like me going live and like answering questions in real time, teaching in real time like this? So if you prefer the original format that you saw in seasons 1 and 2, put a 1 in the chat. If you prefer that format, put a 1 in the chat, pre-recorded. If you prefer the one-off or the teaching episodes where it's me and my camera and the facts, and spitting facts to you. That's number 2, teaching. I see you, MJ. You say give the trilogy. I love it. And then option number 3, if you want the live version like this, if you prefer me to go live and spit the facts live, put a 3 in the chat. So 1, strictly pre-recorded and interviews. 2, me strictly teaching, still probably pre-recorded, but me teaching, more teaching. And number 3, me going live like this in real time. So y'all drop the comments in the chat there. Y'all drop y'all numbers in the chat. Thank you for your contribution, MJ. You said give the trilogy. Basically keep it pushing. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my show, MJ, one of the things I did promise was that this was going to be a journey, and it will continue to be. So everything that I have shared so far, if you notice, even the guests, even though they talk about different topics, we always tie it back into procrastination. Whatever their expertise is, I usually make sure that the guests are somehow connected to productivity and beating procrastination. So I always make sure to bring it back to that, so the recovering procrastinators and luxury items can benefit from all of their expertise. I see you, Sam. 3, just my preference on 99 flight attendant. I see you, bro. Thank you. So far, the consensus is combination. So appreciate that. Appreciate that. So unless anybody else has any other opinions, that's going to be the move going forward. Thank you, Danae. Heavy on the live with a small mix of pre-recorded teaching, but I'm still catching up on the seasons. And man, like that alone, Danae, is such a huge, that's such a huge blessing to me to know that you're like, you know what I mean? Like that there's enough there for folks to binge. Like this is a huge privilege for me, like to be able to share my journey and my knowledge of beating procrastination with you guys. Because as I mentioned in season 1, this is not Mellissa T, the Procrastination Bully, talking down to y'all from the top of the mountain. I am like a few steps ahead of you up the mountain, and I'm like, come on, you know what I mean? Like I'm reaching my hand behind me to pull you up as you're making the journey. Or if you're keeping up with me, like I'm reaching out my hand to you so we can keep running at the same pace. Either way, I'm fulfilling my purpose as a number 2. Like my whole purpose in this world is to help others blossom. So whether you're next to me or you're a couple steps behind me, my hand is still outreached, still outstretched for you to grab. So if you need help pushing past any blocks, if there's some component in your luxury item that maybe you need some research, maybe I know somebody that I can point you to. You're like, you know what? Like I'm working on this. I need this person. Like, but I don't know anybody. I'm like, give me a day. You know what I'm saying? Or as my big brother Carl Phillips would say, give me a second. That is the GC's whole motto and tagline. Give me a second. Like we adjust to every situation. Give me a second. We're the Swiss Army knife. We'll figure it out. Thank you, Miss Sonia. Appreciate you for tuning in. Shout out to the family. Love my family. Y'all are the bomb. And yes, so the consensus is a mixed bag. So I'll continue to keep it mixed. And now that live is a part of this, this is gonna be part of season 3 going forward, MJ. So look forward to more lives, bro. Look forward to more lives, Sam. You know, appreciate you all. Absolutely. So, and Danae just mentioned she, struggled with the rejection for the longest time. Danae, if you could, just real quick, because we are winding down. Today's a special episode. Normally I do like 30 to 40 minutes, but since this was a live, like going a little bit longer. So MJ said we won. Real quick, Danae, if you could, like just type in the chat real briefly, what were some lessons that you learned that helped you break out of or break away from the root or destroy the root of rejection in your life? I'd love for our folks in the chat to benefit from that. And by the way, another thing I would love to offer you guys that are watching, if any of you are interested, like I would love to like have you on the show and chop it up with you, because y'all are faith full. So if you want to share some wins that you've had, whether that's as a result of watching the show or as a result of knowing me personally, and maybe some resources that we shared between each other helped you get your luxury item done or get closer to finishing it, by all means, I'd love to have you on so you can share your stories as well. All right. Would love to, have you on. So I'm extending that invitation to you. And when you send me that email at info@melissathomas.co, let me know that. Like when you put Telegram in the subject line, feel free in the body of the email. If you're interested in being on the show, just let me know that. And I'll gladly set up a date with you to bring you on and have a chat with you, perhaps even live. You know what I mean? And shout out to Riverside. They're not sponsoring this episode, but every single episode of the show is brought to you by Riverside.fm. Like that is the platform I use for the show. And they just recently made live streams available. So shout out to them for making this particular episode possible and live streams in general possible with better camera quality. Because y'all know, like from 2020 to 2024, we still dealing with Zoom, and Zoom's video quality is the pits. So that's why Riverside was created. They decided, you know what, like we gonna meet this need right here. Like we're gonna let them be able to have their meetings or have their interviews without the poor audio and video quality. We're gonna fix that. So anyway, shout out to them. They didn't sponsor the episode, but they are the platform that I use for my show. So I appreciate them. If you guys have any other questions, by all means, drop them in the chat. I'll be glad to answer them. And, shout out again to MJ. Thank you for your question. So expectations are now set for season 3. And we'll continue to step the game up too. We'll continue to step the game up in terms of the people I bring on and the amount of help that they're able to provide. One person I can tell y'all for sure will be on. Her name is Dr. Kimberly Wilson. She calls herself Dr. Burnout, because one subject that I wanted to tackle as it relates to procrastination is burnout and the impact on productivity. Whether you work a corporate job or your schedule is just too packed together and busy, or if you're that busy bee kind of procrastinator and you're doing a lot of work to please other people. Either way, no matter what the burnout looks like, I want to get into that deep conversation about burnout and how that's affecting your productivity and ways to resolve the burnout. So I'll be bringing her on in season 3, and I can't wait for that conversation. Like you guys are in for a treat with her. Awesome. So as we wrap up here, shout out to Danae for putting her answers in the chat here. She said, I had to be willing to release a burden that was never mine to carry. And that's a very important distinction to make. That goes back to doing that deep work, that soul work. There are some things you gotta let go of, some things that aren't yours to carry. One person that unpacked this really well was the guest that I just did a 2-part interview with, and that was Ben Bakayoko. Like his story about, overcoming his desire to, please people, like overcoming the people pleasing and growing. Like he touches on things like that as it relates to certain things he was doing for his mom and things like that. And he had to draw a boundary, you know what I mean? To your point about boundaries. Danae in the comments, she put boundaries for the soul helped. She said, I also wrote a letter to my 10-year-old self. 1, it is not your fault. And 2, you are fully loved. Absolutely. Absolutely. So number 2, the you are fully loved. I put that in section 4 with the vow to protect little Mellissa, and that first paragraph in terms of acknowledging 7-year-old Mellissa, like fully acknowledging her. So absolutely. Yeah, MJ, Ben and Demias, man, like those 2 gentlemen will get you all the way together. If you're looking for coaching, those 2 will get you all the way together. Absolutely. Yeah, Danae, developing healthy boundaries was definitely the game changer. And, for those who missed that episode, this was back in season 1. I interviewed Jas Abraham, the boundaries coach, and we talked in detail about setting boundaries and how the lack of boundaries will lead to procrastination. So by all means, revisit season 1 if that's something that you're still kind of struggling with in completing your luxury item. Revisit that one. Developing healthy boundaries is definitely the game changer. And here's the thing, like doing that sort of letter or speaking over yourself in a way that can help you heal will actually help you set those healthy boundaries, because by that point your nervous system will be regulated again. There is literally nothing that can overcome a dysregulated nervous system. All the word in the world, you can name every Bible verse in the world. If your nervous system is still dysregulated, you still might act out of turn. You still might end up disobeying what God said. You know what I mean? So having that moment with yourself to be able to heal, to be able to vent, even if the other person that you really want to tell off ain't in the room, that's okay. Tell them off with nobody in the room. That'll help your body calm down and re-regulate so that you can then find the language that you need to set the healthy boundaries that you need to set. That's a little bonus game right in there. Throw that in there. um, just let me know, drop a 1 in the chat if you found today's live session helpful, like if the information I shared was helpful for you and actionable for you. If not, I'll come better next time. You know what I mean? But yeah, just want to make sure that I am serving you guys properly. As a procrastination bully, we're going to continue to beat up procrastination until it leaves your life and you are officially producers or better producers than you are now. Because the point is always growth. Thanks, Danae. Appreciate it. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you. Yeah. My goal is always to lovingly push anybody I'm dealing with forward. Forward. Hey, that's what I'm talking about, MJ. He said, whole family about to get this word. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. I love it. But yeah, I just got off of a spiritual development call at 3 or 3:30 technically. Hey, Christina, how you doing? Just so you're aware though, Christina, we're starting to wrap up. I'm about to wrap up in about 2 minutes, but thank you so much for making it on. And please scroll through the chat, Christina. Like that way you can see all of the notes and all of the gems that I shared during the conversation. That way you don't miss out on the lessons and stuff. That way you still get the value that you need to get. And hey, if you need to, like screenshot it or like use your phone's camera to take some quick pictures of it. I know, I feel you. But yeah, make sure to, take some screenshots or capture the notes with your phone. That way you get all the information. And let me put my email address in the chat one more again. And that way, Christina, if you still have any questions, by all means, you can shoot them to me in my email. If you want to, again, guys, if you want to join the Goal Getters community in Telegram, shoot an email to that email address that's in the chat right now, info@melissathomas.co with the subject Telegram. And that way I can get you guys in there. I'll be sure to get back to you and add you guys to the community. That way we can all be in there having all the fun and sharing all the value. Because the beautiful thing about everybody that's tuning in right now, all of you are amazing people and all of you add value in your respective communities in different ways. So I'll love you guys to join the community as well and have fun in there. You know what I mean? I share links to the episodes in there. We every single Friday, #fulfilled Fridays, we always share our wins in there. And then sometimes I do self-reflection Sundays where if there's a lesson or a divine download, I share that for everybody to benefit. If that's something that you want to add your voice to, by all means, I welcome you. Absolutely. You're welcome, Christina. Absolutely. So it is 7 on the nose, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with me for 1 solid hour. 1 solid hour. And I'll do this in a poll on YouTube so you guys can see it. I won't ask you to answer it right now, but I will ask you guys in the poll whether or not you prefer the 30-minute idea or the 1 hour idea. Don't worry about putting the answer now. Like, we out of here. It's 7. So technically 7:01. But I thank all of you for being on, for rocking with me, for tuning in for the full hour, and for rocking with me since the show's beginnings. And for those of you that are new, thank you for choosing to binge. Shout out to Danae. But thank you for choosing to binge and go back and watch several of the other episodes. And hey, leave your comments on those episodes. I'll still go back and respond because it's me, y'all. Like, I'm not using a VA to reply. Like, it's really Mellissa T responding to your comments. So I'll see them. I'll respond to them. If you're having questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening at this point. Peace and much love. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you next Wednesday. Take care.